Greenberg. Marco came in from the States to speak to us today, and he brought his son Noah. Hi, Noah. Welcome. Marco. It's not enough for me, at least personally, to say about Marco that he's a very successful entrepreneur, successful business person. One of probably the major creative minds working today in the field of marketing and PR, and now definitely working in the field of new media marketing. I tell people personally that Marco, since I met Marco on an airplane when I was early in my years in college, he's directly impacted almost every project I've ever done in a significant way. The startup I'm working on now is called Mavenhaven, which you've all been hearing about. The name or the whole concept of Mavens really came from a conversation with Marco, and it goes back like that through every project I've done since I sat next to him on an airplane. So for me, it's a tremendous pleasure and honor to have him here. He was really. I was kind of waiting for this the whole summer and really hoping he could make it. And when he said yes, I was absolutely delighted. And I think we're all going to get a great deal out of this. I'd say both on the topic, which we asked and discussed with Marco to speak about, the dawn of the new age of propaganda, but also as a case study, meaning watch how Marco takes the topic that he's working with and see what he does with it and apply that to your own projects and so on and so forth. And then afterwards we'll have some time to talk to Marco about what everyone here is doing. So with no further ado.
Great. Thank you all. One of the things I've worked in over the years is communications training. We're preparing CEOs or ministers, diplomats for media appearances, for speeches. And one of the things that we often say is in a speech, try to have a more interesting, creative way to begin your remarks rather than, thank you, Aaron, for inviting me. But I really want to thank you for inviting me, Aaron. We met in Cleveland, Ohio, on a Continental Airlines flight. I had a client there, National City Bank, and the timing was very interesting for a lot of reasons. Here was sitting next to me a guy with the kippah sruga, and I ventured to think that he speaks Hebrew, and he spoke perfect Hebrew, and we started talking back and forth. A few days later, 9/11 happened, and I think that's another thing that bonded our relationship, and it's just been an honor to work with you, who I consider a rising star in the whole Jewish world, and all of you for that matter. So I want to begin on that note. I have too many slides here, and I will contradict myself many times in these remarks, and please interrupt when I go through the slides, perhaps selectively, but interrupt, especially if I speak too quickly, which is something that I shouldn't be doing, but I do. If I go through too many text-heavy PowerPoint slides, it's a little ironic. Here I am talking about creative communications, and I'm using a very cliched, boring type of way to go through this. But I wanted to put pen to paper and go through some concepts with you so that perhaps together, if you're so interested, we could build something bigger and better. Let me highlight just a couple terms on the first page here, just so that we're on the same page, okay? By the way, the only person that has permission to fall asleep during my remarks is my son, Noah, 6.5, right? He got very little sleep. I'm going to be in a very bad position with his mother when I get back to the States. Staying up every night till 12, 12:30, 1 in the morning, getting up about 6 or 7. Can I go back to the first slide? Great, okay. Hasbara. Now, everyone in this room knows what that means, right?
No.
No, okay. Great. I love the honesty there. Hasbara, literally in Hebrew, is explaining. Okay? Now, I'm not going to be the first one to tell you that there's something off-putting, there's something defensive, there's something very reactive with this word hasbara, which is part of the problem, in my view, in how we communicate. Now, others have picked up on that irony, right? That it's not public relations or communications or marketing, it's explaining. Well, I have a friend in Westport, Connecticut, a guy named Peter Lutz, and he's a 55, 56-year-old Vietnam vet, built like a brick, you-know-what, solid as a rock, personal trainer. And we talk about politics sometimes. And I once talked to him about Israel and how Israel's communications is based on hasbara, explaining. And he looked at me and he shook his head. And here's an Irish-American guy, never been to Israel, has Jewish friends, but that's sort of the extent of his shayachut bonagid, his connection, right? And he said, well, you know what they say about explaining, Marco? I said, no, Peter, what do they say? He says, well, Your friends don't need it, and your enemies won't believe you anyway. Okay? So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. And this is very symptomatic of the problems that we've seen historically and the problems that we see now. I'll hit on propaganda later. I have very ambivalent feelings about that, but I used it on purpose for a little shock value, sort of back to the future, retro, right? We do want to propagate. We have an agenda. We have a mission. We have an objective. We want to make Israel look good, not bad. That's our goal, right? Okay? Radical communications. I want to shock you. I want to think about what could be, what should be, in terms of how we're communicating. So by definition, I'm going to pick not parve kind of vanilla concepts, but I want to push the envelope, sometimes too much. Sometimes you guys might have to restrain me, and maybe I'm going to push it over the cliff. Okay? But I want to feel free to do that. Zionism, another term that you guys obviously grapple with, I would argue from a communications point of view that there are some serious problems with that very term, and maybe we can work together to think of new terminology. Maybe you guys already have ideas in that vein. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So this is sort of PR talk, right? Objectives and audience. What's my objective? What's my audience? My objective, well, let me ask you guys. Can Israel do a better job of telling the story? That's my first question. Raise of hands for how many of you agree with that. Okay. Almost everyone? Not quite? Okay, everyone. 100%. So that's an easy one, right? We're all in agreement on that. The second one is a little more difficult. If so, how? If so, how? That's one of the things we want to grapple with today. So our primary objective, I want to share, I want to brainstorm, and I want to create the foundation for something that's very audacious and grandiose. Do you guys know the term BHAG? A BHAG?
Big, hairy, audacious goal?
Yes, extra credit. Who is that?
Ellie.
From the corner. Name, please?
Ellie.
Ellie. From the book?
Built to Last.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Love it, love it. BHAGs. Author asks, what are great companies built on? Right? What separates great from the also-rans? The authors look at companies like Boeing, who bet the entire future of the company on the 747 jumbo jet when they didn't even have to. So we're going to focus on BHAGs today, big, hairy, audacious goals, to create a new paradigm for how Israel can communicate. That means I am going to risk my career today and suggest that we should blow up, if not destroy, seriously reshape the current paradigm and replace it with a new paradigm. Okay? Who's my audience? You're my audience. You are my audience, fellow agents of change. Do you guys feel comfortable with that term? Or do you consider yourself agents of change or protecting the status quo? If you're protecting the status quo, you're not going to like my remarks too much. Okay, I'm warning you right now. All right? So it's agents of change.